They thought they won, didn't they? The narcissist walked away smiling, thinking they destroyed you. But what if I told you? They were only used to activate you. God didn't abandon you in that moment of betrayal. He allowed it, on purpose, not to punish you, but to prepare you. This wasn't the end of your story. It was the beginning of your becoming. You're not just anyone. You're the chosen one. And sometimes, the chosen have to be broken before they rise. So don't scroll away just yet, because by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why God let them win that battle, and why the war is already yours. And if this message finds your heart, if it feels like I'm speaking directly to your soul, then don't keep it to yourself. Hit that subscribe button so you're never alone on this journey again. And drop a comment below. I'm still standing. Because you are. And what's coming next will shake everything they thought they had control over. They walked away with a smirk on their face, didn't they? Like they'd just conquered something. Like they had the final say. The narcissist, so good at playing the part, made it seem like you were the weak one. They flipped the script, twisted your truth, and somehow, they made you look like the villain while they played the victim in their carefully crafted story. And if we're being honest, it worked, at least for a while. You sat there with your heart cracked open, wondering how they turned everyone against you. How someone so toxic could walk away untouched, while you were left in pieces. You doubted yourself, questioned your worth, asked God if he was even watching. It felt like defeat. Deep, personal, humiliating defeat. Because the narcissist didn't just hurt you privately. They tried to destroy you publicly. They smeared your name, mocked your sensitivity, and used your love as a weapon. And the world, it clapped for their performance. It gave them the spotlight while you were pushed into the shadows. But here's the truth the enemy never wants you to see. That wasn't defeat. It was divine redirection. See, the chosen one always looks defeated in the beginning. Always. The journey is never clean. The anointed are often misunderstood, overlooked, betrayed, and yes, made to look like the villain before their eyes. And why? Because God allows certain people to walk over you, only so they can walk into their own judgment. You weren't being buried. You were being planted. It only felt like the narcissist won because your story was still mid-chapter. And that's the dangerous thing about the illusion of defeat. It's not real, but it feels real. It makes you want to shrink. It makes you question if you were ever truly chosen. Because if you were really chosen, why did they get away with it? Why did they seem to win? The answer is simple but hard to swallow, because God was silent, not absent. Sometimes, God lets the narcissist win a few battles, not to bless them, but to expose them. To give them just enough rope to hang their own lies in the daylight. God allows the spotlight for a season, knowing their character can't sustain it. He lets the mask stay on just long enough, so when it finally falls, everyone sees the truth clearly. Not just you. But let's talk about you for a moment. You were never losing. You were being refined. God knew that if he stepped in too early, you'd never learn to stand in your own authority. You'd never discover your own strength. You'd always be waiting to be rescued. But chosen ones aren't built like that. We don't get rescued. We rise. You see, narcissists don't target just anyone. They target light. They target purpose. They are drawn to people with divine assignments because they feel empty inside and crave what you naturally carry. Empathy, vision, peace, joy, connection to truth. So they try to consume it. They mirror it at first, then they mock it. Then they try to destroy it when they realize they can't become it. That's why it felt so personal. Because it was. But here's what they didn't realize. They were never fighting just you. They were fighting what God put inside of you. And you can't kill what God called. You can't cancel a soul that was handcrafted for purpose. That illusion of defeat was only allowed to make you question your power long enough for you to go deeper, not dissipate. And once you realize that, something shifts. You stop begging for closure. You stop waiting for the apology. You stop needing validation from people who were never qualified to define you in the first place. And instead, you start healing. Quietly, deeply, powerfully. And while they continue their performance, needing more and more attention to survive, you become rooted in something they can't understand. Truth. You start to realize you didn't lose anything. They lost access to a soul God handpicked. And the further you walk away from the illusion, the clearer you see the reality. They never actually won. They just got louder. And sometimes the enemy's volume tricks us into thinking they have victory. But volume isn't power. Presence is. You were always the one carrying presence. That's why they tried to dim it. They didn't destroy you. They exposed themselves. And now the war shifts. Because the chosen one doesn't fight like the world does. We don't need revenge. We don't seek to destroy what hurt us. We rise so far above it that the old version of us no longer exists. We become unrecognizable to those who once controlled our triggers. We walk with peace they can't imitate. And that is the real win. So if you're still healing from what felt like a loss, hear this again. It was an illusion. God was working behind the scenes the entire time. He didn't forget you. He wasn't punishing you. He was preserving you. Because where he's taking you, the narcissist couldn't follow. Their character couldn't go where your calling is leading. Their need for power couldn't survive your level of purity. And now, their access is gone. You didn't lose. You learned. You didn't fall apart. You fell into alignment. The narcissist may have won the battle in the eyes of man, but in the eyes of heaven, the war was already decided. And the crown, it belongs to the chosen one who kept walking, even when it hurt, even when it felt like no one believed you. Even when you had to heal in the dark, you were never defeated. You were being prepared. And now, it's your time. We live in a world that moves fast. A world that wants instant justice, instant karma, instant answers. And when that doesn't happen, when the narcissist walks away smiling while the chosen one suffers, it feels wrong. It feels backwards. You might even whisper to God, "Why are you letting them get away with it? Don't you see what they did?" But here's the truth no one likes to admit. God's strategy is not man's strategy. His justice doesn't follow our clocks. We want resolution by morning. God works in seasons. We want them exposed now. God waits until the stage is set, the audience is quiet, and the mask is halfway fallen. Then he reveals what's real. See, the world sees success in speed, applause, and appearance. But heaven sees success in depth, character, and timing. That's why it looked like the narcissist was ahead. That's why it seemed like they got the friends, the followers, the sympathy. But they were never winning. They were simply moving on man's timeline, a timeline driven by ego and performance. Meanwhile, you were being reshaped by fire. Because God doesn't build his chosen ones for a quick win. He builds them for eternal impact. He lets them sit in the wilderness. He lets them go silent. He lets them be misunderstood, because that's where they stop needing the world's approval and start listening to heaven's voice. It's slow, but it's sacred. You see, when God anoints you for something higher, he removes distractions. He'll let the narcissist win on the surface to push you deeper into yourself, into truth, into healing. He's not ignoring injustice. He's preparing to reverse it with precision. But if you don't understand divine timing, you'll get discouraged in the waiting. You'll start to believe the lie that silence means defeat. Let me tell you something powerful. God's delay is not his denial. He didn't forget what they did. He's just not going to deal with them in your way. Because if he moved in your anger, he'd only address the surface. But God waits until the root is exposed, until the narcissist has tied their own story into so many lies that when the truth finally comes, there's no place left to hide. And while you're in the waiting room, thinking God is absent, is actually working. He's protecting your name from battles you don't even see. He's opening doors they thought they closed. He's softening your spirit so when the moment of justice does come, you're no longer bitter. You're better. That's the part people miss. We think the point of divine justice is just to watch them fall. But real divine justice, it's when you rise and don't even need to look back. It's when God elevates you to a place so high that the betrayal doesn't define you anymore. The lies can't touch you. The narcissist's words lose their power because your identity isn't rooted in their version of you. It's rooted in God's vision of you. And that takes time. But let me ask you this. Would you rather God rush the process and give you a small win now? Or would you rather wait and receive a victory that changes your entire life? God is strategic. He plays the long game. He's not trying to make the narcissist look bad. He's making sure you become unshakable. That's why it's quiet right now. Because while they were performing, you were being purified. While they were manipulating, you were maturing. While they were chasing attention, you were learning alignment. And when God moves, it's not going to be petty. It's going to be perfect. You'll walk into rooms they tried to block you from. You'll carry a peace they can't imitate. You'll speak with authority they never understood. And no one will have to ask who is telling the truth. They'll feel it. Because when God shows up, there's no argument. But that kind of justice only comes when you trust His process. When you realize the battle isn't yours, it's His. And He doesn't lose. So if you're watching this in the middle of the pain, wondering why God hasn't stepped in yet, hold on. The story's not over. This isn't the final scene. You're not forgotten, abandoned, or defeated. You're just in the part of the journey where God is building the version of you that can carry what's next. Because God is not reactive. He is deliberate. He'll let the narcissist dig the hole deep. He'll let the world believe the lie. And then, in His time, He will lift you up so clearly, so undeniably, that no one will be able to deny who you are, where you came from, or who sent you. That's divine justice. That's God's strategy. And that's why the chosen one always wins the war, even if it looks like they lost the battle. They gloated, didn't they? When they walked away, it felt like they won. They got what they wanted: attention, sympathy, maybe even a new supply lined up before you had time to process what happened. They made you look unstable, jealous, bitter, while they walked away smiling like nothing ever touched them. That was their temporary victory. And let's be honest, it stung. It hurt to watch someone who caused so much damage appear untouchable. It hurt to be the one left broken, confused, and discarded, while they seemed to move on effortlessly. You asked yourself, where is the justice? Why does evil seem to succeed? But here's the truth. Short-term victories are not real wins. They are setups. See, narcissists thrive in the shallow end of life. Quick wins, public praise, surface-level validation. They're not playing for legacy. They're not thinking eternally. They want the thrill of the moment, the illusion of power, and the rush of control. So when they win temporarily, what actually happens isn't growth, it's inflation. And when a narcissist's ego inflates, it blinds them. It blinds them to their own flaws. It blinds them to their own downfall. They think because they won one battle, smearing you, discarding you, replacing you, that they've gained full control over the narrative. But what they don't see is that every fake win is a thread unraveling the mask. The more they gloat, the more they talk. The more they lie, the more contradictions appear. The more people they fool, the more people start to question, why does chaos always follow them? Because short-term wins don't produce fruit. They don't build character. They don't grow roots. And that's why their victory never lasts. While the narcissist is still stuck in performance mode, replaying their grand exit in their head, you're healing. You're rebuilding. You're becoming silent but strong. They don't know it yet, but they just gave you the best gift possible: freedom. Freedom from the cycle. Freedom from confusion. Freedom to finally focus on you instead of trying to fix someone who never intended to grow. So yes, they won something. But what did they win, really? They want more dysfunction. They want another fake relationship based on performance. They want another temporary high to cover the endless low inside. Meanwhile, you're over here growing roots. You're learning what peace feels like. You're becoming self-aware. You're seeing your patterns. You're discovering your worth, not in how others treat you, but in who God says you are. That's not just survival. That's transformation. And while the narcissist stays stuck in a loop of pretending, performing, and projecting, you've stepped into a new reality. One that doesn't need to be loud. One that doesn't need to prove anything. One that stands tall in silence, because your fruit is doing the talking now. You see, when a narcissist wins early, it actually prevents them from growing. The inflated ego tells them they were right all along. So they stay the same. They don't reflect. They don't apologize. They don't evolve. But that ego bubble, it always bursts. And when it does, it's loud, embarrassing, public. Because here's the law of exposure. What is built on lies must fall. God won't allow someone to build a kingdom of manipulation and keep it. It may last for a season, but seasons shift. And when the storm comes, and it always comes, what's fake gets stripped away. The mask slips. The charm fades. The truth comes out. And when that happens, everyone will finally see what you saw from the beginning. But here's the twist. By then, you won't even care. You'll be too far gone, too healed, too focused on your future to care about the ashes of their empire. That's divine justice. That's why God allows the narcissist a short-term win, because he knows they'll build their entire illusion on it. And when it falls, it will fall completely. But you're being built by God, not by ego. Your healing took time, but now it has depth. Your truth was buried, but now it's unshakable. And when your moment comes, it won't be loud. It will be undeniable. People will feel your peace before they even hear your voice. They'll see your strength and how calm you've become. They'll notice your glow, not because of revenge, but because of restoration. That's the difference between short-term victory and eternal victory. So don't envy their spotlight. Don't mourn their success. Don't wish for their path. Because while they were chasing applause, you were chasing God. And the war, it still belongs to Him. This story isn't over. And the one who wins in the end is always the one who let God fight for them. So stand tall, chosen one. The narcissist may have won the moment, but you're about to own the legacy. It never made sense while it was happening. You questioned everything. Your worth, your strength, even your purpose. The pain didn't seem fair. The losses kept piling up, one after another. Friends you trusted walked away. People you loved turned cold. The narcissist who once clung to your light was now using your heart as target practice. You felt abandoned, not just by people, but sometimes even by God. And yet, something deep inside whispered, "Keep going." It didn't sound loud or certain, but it was there, quiet and persistent. That whisper wasn't just your resilience. It was divine. Because what you didn't realize at the time was that you were in training. Real training. Hidden training. The kind of preparation that doesn't come with trophies or applause. The kind that looks like failure on the surface, but is actually forming an unshakable foundation. Every betrayal carved something deeper in you. Every tear watered your spiritual strength. Every loss stripped away illusions you used to depend on. While you thought you were falling apart, heaven was silently shaping you into something rare. Someone who couldn't be manipulated again. Someone who would no longer apologize for being powerful. Someone who would walk into their purpose awake. You weren't being punished. You were being positioned. That's the truth no one told you. Chosen ones don't get trained in comfort. They get trained in chaos, in silence, in heartbreak, because the assignment on your life isn't normal. You're not here to blend in. You're not here to settle. You were never meant to be just another person. Your voice carries something. Your presence shifts rooms. Your intuition picks up on things before others see it. And because of that, because you carry that, You were targeted. Not just by narcissists, but by every situation meant to humble you, stretch you, and strip away everything false so what remains is only truth. That's the hidden training of the chosen one. It looks like loss, but it's actually construction. God was digging the roots deep because he plans to take you higher than you ever imagined. And he knew that without the training, the platform would destroy you. So he let people misunderstand you. He let them walk away. He let the narcissist think they won, because he needed you to stop seeking approval from people who were never part of your destiny. You didn't lose your way. You were being rerouted. Think back. If those relationships had worked out, would you have grown? If those friendships hadn't fallen apart, would you have listened to your soul's call? No. You would have stayed in cycles. And chosen ones can't afford to stay in cycles. We are here to break them. So God used the losses. He used the betrayal. He used even the manipulation. Yes, even the narcissist, as a mirror to show you where you still needed healing. Not to shame you, but to strengthen you. Because you can't stand in your calling half-healed. You can't step into power while still needing permission. And so, every loss, every ounce of pain, was secretly preparing you for your real assignment. You may not have seen it, but heaven was taking notes. When you forgave them even though they didn't deserve it. When you cried alone but still showed up. When you didn't retaliate, even when you had the right to. When you kept your heart soft in a world that demanded you go hard. That was your training. You were being refined, not reduced. God was stretching your capacity to carry more truth, more light, more authority. You weren't becoming less. You were becoming ready. And here's the wild part. Your real assignment wasn't just about what you do in the world. It's about who you become through it. The way you now discern energy. The way you sense when something's off. The way you protect your peace like it's sacred. That didn't come from books. It came from battle. And no one can fake that. That's why your presence is heavy now. That's why the narcissist, and people like them, can't look you in the eye anymore. Because they feel it. You don't need to say anything. They know they no longer have access. You've outgrown the trap. You've ascended above the manipulation. And the strength you carry now. It didn't come from winning all the time. It came from losing, then rising anyway. This is what makes the chosen ones dangerous, not to the world, but to the systems that run on deception. We don't move the same. We don't chase validation anymore. We don't give our energy away just because someone demands it. Why? Because we were trained in the dark. While others were performing, we were processing. While others were speaking, we were listening. And now we speak from experience, not ego. That's a level of power the narcissist will never understand. Because they skipped the training. They looked for shortcuts. But your depth, your clarity, your peace, it came from surviving what was meant to break you. So if you're still in that phase, still healing, still aching, still wondering if you've been forgotten, hear this clearly. You're not being punished. You're being sharpened. You're still in training. And when God trains someone, He does it thoroughly. Because the chosen one's mission requires more than just surface-level success. It requires endurance, vision, compassion with boundaries, wisdom that comes from pain, not just from pages. You were never average, so your path was never going to be either. But when the time comes, and it will, you'll rise with a strength that no one can deny, not even the ones who tried to bury you. So hold on. What feels like delay is development. What looks like rejection is protection. And what seems like loss, it's actually preparation. Because you're not being broken, you're being built. Quietly, purposefully, powerfully. And one day soon, you'll look back at every single moment you thought was unfair, and you'll whisper, "Thank you, God. You were training me the whole time." Because every loss was secretly preparing you for your real assignment. They thought breaking your heart would break your purpose. They thought if they damaged your mind, insulted your character, and walked away like you were worthless, It would silence your voice forever. But what they didn't know, what they couldn't see, was that God had placed something deeper inside you that no human hand could touch. Yes, they reached the vessel. They cracked it, wounded it, poured their poison into it. But the calling, the divine assignment on your life, that remained untouched, intact, reserved. You see, when you're the chosen one, you often don't even know you're being trained until the battle has already passed. That pain you cried through, that betrayal that kept you awake night after night, it wasn't just suffering, it was sharpening. Every loss, every tear, every humiliation, it was the secret curriculum of heaven. God was teaching you how to stand in storms, how to hear His voice over the noise, and how to know the difference between counterfeit love and real spiritual alignment. That's not just survival. That's preparation. The narcissist was allowed to walk in. Yes, they were allowed to play the role of friend, lover, even family, but only for a season. Because God never protects His chosen from all pain. He protects them from permanent destruction. He let them touch your feelings, your image, your reputation. But they couldn't touch what really mattered. They couldn't rewrite your destiny. They couldn't stop the oil that flows from your obedience. They couldn't cancel what heaven already spoke over you. And it hurt, didn't it? The confusion, the silence from God in your darkest moments. You asked, why would God allow this? But what if He allowed it to wake you up? What if the rejection was divine redirection? What if the storm was part of the strategy? Here's the truth most people won't say out loud. Narcissists are often drawn to the chosen ones. Not because they love your light, but because they envy it. They try to dim it, distort it, even steal it. But what they don't understand is that the anointing doesn't come from outside. It flows from within. And no matter what they take, they cannot rob you of your spiritual birthright. That's why you're still here. You might not feel strong. You might not feel chosen. But the fact that you're still breathing, still searching for truth, still healing, that's proof. You were not defeated. You were developed. And here's the power in this moment. When they wounded the vessel, you got closer to the source. When they abandoned you, God sat beside you in the silence. He let it happen, yes, but not to shame you. He let it happen to shape you, to draw you out of dependency on people and into full alignment with Him. Let's be clear, you weren't weak for loving them. You weren't stupid for trying to fix things. You were operating from a pure heart in a toxic space. And God saw that. He saw how you fought for peace, how you tried to hold the family together, how you kept silent just to avoid conflict. And He saw how they twisted that silence as weakness. But God isn't mocked. And the training of the chosen one never ends in defeat. That pain, it taught you boundaries. That betrayal, it showed you discernment. That loneliness, it pushed you into prayer. That's the hidden training. That's how God builds warriors without announcing the war. So now, you walk differently. You don't explain yourself as much. You don't chase people who drain you. You don't try to prove your worth anymore. And you know why? Because you finally realized your calling isn't up for discussion. It's not up for debate. It's already sealed. The narcissist's words may have shaken your confidence, but they couldn't cancel your covenant. They lied about you. But God is rewriting the narrative. They may have laughed at your brokenness, but they'll have to watch your rise. You're not behind. You're not late. You're in training. And it was never about how much they damaged you. It's about what God is building in you. The fire didn't burn you. It forged you. The silence didn't break you. It built your discernment. The rejection didn't end you. It redirected you. That's the mystery of divine protection. God will let them touch your emotions just enough to wake you up, but never your destiny. So stop mourning the battle. Start recognizing the wisdom it gave you. Stop replaying their cruelty. Start stepping into the clarity it birthed. This isn't the end. This is the evolution. Because while they were busy touching the vessel, God was busy anchoring the calling. You are the chosen one. And your story is not over. They thought you were weak because you didn't fight back. They thought your silence meant surrender. But silence, true, holy silence, isn't passive. It's powerful. It's not the absence of a response. It's the presence of restraint. Divine restraint. The kind that says, I could, but I won't. Not because I can't, but because God is teaching me something deeper than revenge. The chosen one knows when to speak, and when to let God speak instead. You see, in this world, people equate power with volume. The loudest voice, the sharpest clapback, the harshest insult. But in the kingdom of God, power doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it waits. Sometimes it walks away. That's what you did. You didn't scream. You didn't fight deity. You didn't beg them to understand. You stood still. And that silence, it shook the spiritual realm. Because here's what they didn't know. Your silence wasn't emptiness. It was full of clarity. In that silence, you were listening. To yourself. To God. You were gathering strength. Watching patterns. Seeing truth. You were learning the lesson behind the betrayal. Hearing the whisper behind the chaos. That wasn't weakness. That was discipline. And you paid a price for that silence, didn't you? They misunderstood you. They mocked you. They said you were too sensitive, too quiet, too distant. But it's easy to misread a soul that's healing in private. They didn't see the inner war you were fighting, the tears you swallowed, the prayers you whispered into your pillow. They didn't know God was rewiring your spirit while they were busy playing power games. This is the hidden training of the chosen one, to remain calm when falsely accused, to walk away instead of react, to stay quiet while your name is thrown in the date, because you trust that God will clean it better than you ever could. That takes strength most people will never understand. You could have exposed them. You could have revealed every lie. You had receipts, proof, and reason. But you chose a different path. The higher road. The lonelier road. And yet, the holier one. Because the chosen one doesn't just react. The chosen one discerns. Sometimes God will hold your tongue. Not because you're not allowed to speak, but because it's not time. The battle isn't yours. The vindication isn't yours to orchestrate. Your silence was obedience. And obedience is where favor lives. Remember this, lions don't roar at every barking dog. Eagles don't flap around with pigeons. And chosen ones, they don't wrestle with those sent to distract them from purpose. You were made for more. And that more required focus, spiritual maturity, and trust in God's justice over man's judgment. You've been through so much. Lied on, betrayed, used, abandoned, and through it all, you kept your mouth shut. Not because you had nothing to say, but because you had everything to protect. Your peace, your growth, your calling. They called it avoidance, but God called it anointing. Because while they were trying to trigger you, heaven was training you. Every time you didn't react, you were leveling up. Every time you chose to sit with your pain rather than project it, you were healing. Every time you didn't explain yourself, you were anchoring your identity deeper in God, not in their opinion. That is divine evolution. And yes, it was lonely. You questioned yourself. You wanted to scream your truth into the world. But something inside whispered, wait, let me handle it. And God did. Maybe not on your timeline. Maybe not in front of everyone. But justice came. Oh, it's coming. And it will be loud in ways your voice never needed to be. There's a scripture that says, the Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. That was your story. Stillness was your battlefield. Quietness was your sword. And your silence, it wasn't surrender. It was strategy. Let them talk. Let them lie. Let them think they won. Because one thing is true in every chosen one's journey. Those who betrayed you will have to watch you bloom. The very people who disrespected your silence will soon witness the thunder of your becoming. And they won't understand how you did it. But you'll know. It was silence. Sacred, holy silence. The kind that echoes louder than words. The kind that holds your dignity when everything else is falling apart. The kind that makes room for God to move. So today, if you're still hurting, still healing, still wondering if you should have said more, release it. You said enough. You did enough. And silence didn't make you smaller. It protected the expansion that was coming. Every moment you held your tongue, you preserved your energy for the real battle. Not the petty one, but the divine one. Not for revenge, but for purpose. Not to be heard, but to be healed. You are not weak. You are wise. You are not passive. You are powerful. You are not forgotten. You are favored. And this silence, it wasn't just for survival. It was for your preparation. Because soon, very soon, God will speak through your life louder than you ever could. You are the chosen one. And you never needed noise to prove it. You thought it was just a toxic relationship. Just manipulation. Just gaslighting. Just emotional abuse. But it wasn't just anything. This wasn't merely psychological. It was spiritual. A battlefield dressed in romance, family ties, or friendship. But behind the charming mask was a shadow. Behind your tears, a war. This was spiritual warfare 101. And you were the target, not because you were weak, but because you carried light. You didn't enter that connection blindly. You loved with purity. You gave from your soul. But what you didn't know, what many still don't realize, is that light attracts darkness. Not because you're doing anything wrong, but because you're doing something right. Because the enemy doesn't waste energy attacking the empty. He goes after the ones with purpose. You were chosen. Anointed, covered, and because of that, your spirit became a battlefield. What looked like emotional abuse was actually strategic spiritual sabotage, designed to confuse you, silence your gifts, make you doubt your worth, twist your sense of reality, because once your confidence is gone, your calling gets buried under shame, and that's exactly what the darkness wanted, for you to stop shining. They weren't just emotionally unavailable. They were spiritually compromised. They carried wounds, attachments, and spirits that weren't healed. And when your light came close, it exposed everything they tried to hide. Instead of healing, they attacked. Instead of surrendering to truth, they tried to dim yours. This is how spiritual warfare often looks. It hides in narcissism. It hides in charm. It hides in love bombing, manipulation, guilt trips, and blame. It hides in confusion, chaos, and unspoken tension. But what makes it warfare is what happens inside you during it. The gaslighting wasn't just to win arguments. It was to separate you from your inner compass, to disconnect you from your intuition, to keep you second-guessing yourself until you no longer trusted your own discernment or God's. And when you started breaking down, crying, exhausted, isolated, didn't you hear that whisper? You're not crazy. This is a spiritual war, and your soul is worth fighting for. That whisper, that was God, calling you back, reminding you that this wasn't just heartbreak. It was initiation, training, the making of a warrior. You see, chosen ones don't get to learn in comfort. They learn in fire. They learn through betrayal, through abuse, through warfare, because they are being trained to spot shadows, to break generational curses, to rise where others bowed down. And you, beloved, have been rising, whether you realize it or not. You may feel broken right now, but the fact that you're even reading this means your spirit is still elate, still hungry for truth, still reaching for God. That means darkness didn't win. Every tear you cried was a cleansing. Every sleepless night, a sharpening. Every moment you almost lost yourself was actually a moment your soul was being fortified. You didn't go through that battle for nothing. You went through it because something had to break. And it wasn't you. It was the illusion, the lies, the agreements you didn't know you made. And now, you're awake. You're starting to see things clearly. You're remembering your worth. You're reclaiming your energy. You're starting to realize what happened to you wasn't fair, but it was necessary, because now you know how to fight. Now you know what spiritual abuse feels like. Now you know how to protect your peace, how to recognize manipulation, how to guard your spirit, not in bitterness, but in wisdom. You've become spiritually dangerous to the kingdom of darkness. That's why the attacks got worse as you tried to leave. That's why they smeared your name. That's why confusion surrounded you. Because your freedom was a threat. Your healing was rebellion. Your silence was strength. This is what they don't tell you. Spiritual warfare is subtle. It's not always demons screaming in the dark. Sometimes, it's a slow erosion of your confidence. A smile that hides control. A love that drains your soul. A trauma bond masked as destiny. But now you see. And now you know. And you'll never go back. Because this isn't about them anymore. This is about you. The warrior. The healer. The light carrier. You survived what was meant to spiritually assassinate you. You're rising from the ashes. Not just alive, but wiser, bolder, anointed. And now, you are the one darkness fears. You have the discernment. You have the armor. You have the fire. And you have God. So don't downplay your survival. Don't call it just a breakup. Don't call it just family problems. Call it what it was, warfare. And what you are now, a warrior trained in secret. There comes a moment, a divine moment, when the mask they've worn for so long begins to crack. Not by your hand, not by revenge, not through arguments or endless explanations, but by God's timing. Because he sees what happens behind closed doors. He hears the lies, the gaslighting, the manipulation. He watches as you cry in silence, trying to hold on to what's left of your sanity, wondering if anyone will ever believe you. And then, just when the narcissist thinks they've won, just when they feel safe behind the charm and deception, the mask falls. Publicly, completely, irrevocably. It doesn't fall in a whisper. It falls in a way that exposes everything, not just to you, but to the very people they fooled. The ones who once believed their false kindness, their performative compassion, their perfectly polished lies. One by one, the blinders lift. The truth walks in without apology. And suddenly, all the pieces click together for those watching. The narcissist scrambles, but the performance no longer works. The script has expired. The spotlight, once their power, becomes their undoing. You may have waited months, even years, for this moment. And maybe, along the way, you doubted yourself, questioned your reality. You might have prayed, God, when will they be exposed? When will the truth come out? And the answer was always, in God's time. Not when you wanted justice, but when it would be undeniable. When the exposure would not destroy you in the process, but liberate you, elevate you, redeem every tear you cried in silence. The fall of the mask is never accidental. It is orchestrated by heaven, because God will not allow lies to prosper forever. He will not let the proud continue unchecked. The narcissist may have built their image on manipulation, but God builds justice on truth. And when truth arrives, it does not whisper. It roars. So don't chase revenge. Don't waste your energy trying to make people see. You don't have to fight the way they do. Let time speak. Let God move. Let the fruit of your healing shine louder than their smear campaigns. Because the same God who watched them wound you in secret is the God who will reveal them in the open. And when it happens, it will be complete. Not a partial truth. Not a whisper of suspicion. But a fall so undeniable that even their most loyal enablers will be stunned into silence. That's the thing about masks. They always fall. But when God removes them, they don't just slip off quietly. They shatter. And when they do, you'll realize it wasn't just about exposing them. It was about restoring you. God saw it all, and is not finished yet. They thought it was the end of you. When you went silent, they called it defeat. When you stopped explaining yourself, They called it guilt. When you withdrew into isolation, they thought you had nothing left. But what they couldn't see was that your silence was sacred. Your isolation was holy ground. Your heartbreak, it was the cracking open of an old version of you, so something divine could rise from the ashes. You see, when God chooses someone, He doesn't crown them in crowds. He crushes them in secret. He lets them be broken where no one is watching. He strips away every illusion, every false identity, every dependency, until all that's left is the truth of who you are in Him. And that's where the real rise begins. The rise of the chosen one isn't loud. It doesn't come with applause. It comes with quiet strength, with clarity, with spiritual authority that can't be faked or stolen. After the narcissist has played every trick, drained your light, and tried to write the final chapter of your story, God steps in. And when He elevates you, it's not just to restore what was lost. It's to reveal what was always in you, but had to be hidden for a time. They saw your pain, but they never saw the promise. They witnessed your fall, but not your foundation, because your fall wasn't failure. It was positioning. It was God digging deep roots so that when He lifts you up, you won't be shaken again. This rise isn't just personal. It's prophetic. It's a sign that everything they tried to bury is now blooming in plain sight. So, to the one who felt forgotten, remember this. Heaven doesn't rush the chosen. God took His time with you, not to delay your purpose, but to prepare your soul. Because elevation without healing becomes ego. At first, it felt like betrayal, like injustice, like the universe had turned its back on you. You asked yourself over and over, why would God allow this? Why would He sit back and watch as someone so toxic, so manipulative, so cold-hearted was allowed to enter your life, twist your reality, and tear your heart apart piece by piece? But the truth, though painful at first, is this. The narcissist didn't break you. They awakened you. That person came into your life not to bless you, but to break the illusion, to shatter the version of yourself that was still asleep, the version that was still trying to earn love through self-abandonment, still tolerating crumbs while your soul was starving, still dimming your light to make others comfortable. The narcissist's cruelty was calculated, but divinely permitted. Why? Because without that pain, you never would have remembered who you were. You would have kept playing small. You would have kept settling. You would have kept loving people who secretly resented your light. And so, God allowed the narcissist to touch your emotions, but not your calling. He permitted the storm, not to destroy you, but to wake you up. Every gaslight, every lie, every betrayal, they weren't just attacks. They were alarms, warnings from heaven, echoes in your spirit saying, this is not who you are. This is not your final chapter. You are meant for more. And you wouldn't have heard those messages without the sting of their rejection. You see, the narcissist came disguised as love, but they were a lesson, a harsh one, a holy one. Their manipulation taught you where your boundaries needed to be. Their control showed you where you had given up your voice. Their chaos revealed how much you craved peace. But most of all, their darkness forced your light to rise. They pushed you so far into pain that you had no choice but to finally choose yourself. And that choice, that was your awakening. That's the moment you stopped begging for someone to see your wife and started recognizing it on your own. That's the moment you realized you were not broken. You were becoming. That God wasn't punishing you. He was positioning you. That your tears were not weakness. They were washing away the lies. The narcissist wanted to destroy your confidence, your trust, your hope in people, but they failed to realize something deeper. You were never meant to be validated by people who were threatened by your soul. You were designed to be affirmed by the one who created you, God Himself. And what He placed in you, it's unshakable, untouchable, eternal. The narcissist triggered your awakening by showing you exactly what love is not, so that you could recognize what love truly is. And real love, it doesn't confuse you. It doesn't compete with you. It doesn't punish your emotions. Real love creates space for you to grow, heal, and rise into your full identity. That's the blessing in the betrayal. That's the divine setup behind the heartbreak. You didn't just survive the narcissist. You were transformed by them. Your tears became your training. Your silence became your strength. And your scars, they're not shame. They're symbols that you walked through fire and didn't burn. You came out wiser, stronger, and closer to God than you've ever been. So let them think they broke you. Let them believe they won. Because what you gained is something far greater. Clarity, power, purpose, and awakening. The narcissist's cruelty unlocked your divine identity. You no longer chase love. You embody it. You no longer beg for peace. You protect it. And you no longer fear loss. Because you understand that anything that can leave your life wasn't assigned to your destiny. You are no longer the person they tried to manipulate. You're not playing that role anymore. You are walking in your truth. You are rising in your light. You are standing in your chosen identity. And God, He was there through it all. Quiet, but not absent. Silent, but watching. Allowing just enough pain to push you toward Him. And now that you're awake, there's no going back to sleep. You see too clearly now. You've seen behind the mask. You've seen your own soul rise from the pit they tried to bury you in. You're not here to just heal. You're here to lead, to shine, to shake systems with your voice, to break generational cycles with your choices. And none of it would have happened without the narcissist acting as the catalyst. They thought they could break you, but they built you. Unintentionally, of course, but divinely orchestrated all the same. The world sees the chosen one as strong, untouchable, fearless, unwavering. But what they don't see is the war that rages within. They don't see the nights when your mind turns against you, when the voice inside whispers, "You're not good enough," or "You're not ready," or wise. What if it was never you? See, people think the real battles are fought out there, in the open, with enemies, haters, betrayal, and pain. But for the chosen one, the real battlefield is internal. It's quiet, it's personal, and it's relentless. Because before you can defeat darkness in the world, you have to first face the darkness in yourself. And that's the hardest war of all. It's the war against your inner critic. The one that remembers your failures in detail but forgets your victories. The one that tells you you're too late, too broken, too unqualified. It's the war against fear. Not fear of others, but fear of your own greatness. Because deep down, you know, once you step into your true power, there's no going back. No more hiding. No more shrinking. No more pretending. That kind of responsibility, it's heavy, and holy, and terrifying. You see, every chosen one is sent into a season of isolation, not just to escape the noise of the world, but to confront the noise within. Because God knows, before He sends you out, He must clean you out. He must tear down the lies you believed about yourself. He must purge the guilt, the shame, the self-doubt you've carried since childhood. He must strip away every identity you built just to survive. And that's why the inner war is sacred. It's not punishment, it's purification. Your enemies may lie about you, but your own mind, it can be crueler than all of them combined. Who do you think you are? Why would anyone listen to you? You'll fail like you always do. But here's the truth. The moment you recognize those thoughts aren't from God, is the moment the war starts to shift. You realize that not every thought is yours. That some doubts were planted. Some fears were inherited. Some voices in your head sound like your own, but came from people who tried to keep you small. The real war is about remembrance. Remembering who you were before the world got to you.